Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to our call for tonight. And I was going to be sharing, just kind of just some updates on the community. I didn't have time to work on them. I've been really kind of working on I've been kind of working on the host all day. And so as a result of that, I really did not have time to prepare, in the way that I wanted to. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm just going to do a little training here. And it's going to be based on a question that I got from one of our members, one of our insider members, about being overwhelmed. And I hope that this is going to be helpful to you also. If you have any questions, you can write them there in the box. Now, if you're on Facebook, I don't think I'm going to be able to see your questions. If you are on YouTube, I will be able to see them. And so if you're wanting to comment and you want to kind of talk back, hello, Helen, I will see your comments on YouTube. Let's dive into the 15-minute cure for information overload. And one thing I do want to do is if you're watching this, depending on where you're watching this, you may not be signed up for our newsletter. I'm going to tell you to make sure that you're signed up at the plrshow.com. All the problems with our host notwithstanding, we are going to then, you're going to want to make sure you're signed up there. We talk about PLR every day. I'll give you tips and tricks on how you can use it more effectively. And then also our most recent PLR video course. Now, again, depending on when you're watching this, I don't know what you're going to be seeing. Our most recent course as of the recording of this session is our Zoom PLR. And right now, you can pick that up at the plrshow.com/new. Now, you could be listening to this later in the year, and there might be a different video course that we are making available to you. Whatever our latest course is, you will then be able to get it at this address. Dana says way too much information. So let's talk about just a few strategies that you can use, a few 15-minute strategies that you can use. So I'm calling this the 15-minute cure for information overload. And so first, the thing that you and I are really going to have to do, and I say this all the time, and it's something that I need to say to myself, I need to preach to the choir, and I'm part of the choir. Decide who you're going to want to sell to. And it sounds simple as it is, but it really is important, because as soon as you get that, I think firmly in your head, decide on who you want to sell to. It's going to tell you who you want to teach to. It's going to tell you what kind of examples to use. It's going to tell you whether or not to use a webinar or a Facebook Live. It's going to tell you whether or not to use YouTube versus Instagram. Decide on who you want to sell to. Decide on who you are going to be resonating with. Decide first as to whether or not you want to be in the make money online market. Do you really want to be you really want to sell to people in the JVZoo Warrior Plus market? You got to decide that. As soon as you decide that, you are going to feel a load of stress come off of your shoulders. If you decide I'm going all in, I'm diving into the JVZoo Warrior Plus market, you decide that, then everything is going to become crystal clear. You're going to start buying differently. And so once you do that, you will then be in a position to really move forward and get focused. Whatever you do, just make sure you're good at it. I've often heard that you want to make sure that it's something that you're passionate about. I think that's true. I think you should kind of try to develop your passion around the things you're good at. And so when you go to the market, whether it's the JVZoo Warrior Plus market or you're going outside of that market, please go with where you are at your best. What do I mean by that? Where you have the most knowledge that you can deliver to people, and you can deliver it to in a way that they can understand it. You can deliver it to people in a way that it resonates with them. You can deliver it to them in a way that when they hear it, they say, yes, that's something I can't hear by doing a Google search. Yes, that's something I can't hear by going to YouTube and hearing it. That's something that's totally new. That is a compilation of all the things that I've heard. You're saying it in a way that other people have not heard it. So again, make sure you're good at whatever it is you're going to be selling access to or teaching. Also, you should find yourself resonating with people. So whatever you're doing, you should have people who are kind of shaking their heads and saying, okay, I think I get it from this person. I think I'm understanding what they're saying. That's the kind of response you should be getting. If you're going to be outside of the JVZoo, Warrior Plus, the MMO market, I want you to understand something. Know this. And this is non-business opportunity JVZoo, Warrior Plus markets. When you start going into those other niches, the instant you get there, you are going to start to feel unworthy. More than likely, you're gonna start to feel like everybody else has been there before you, or that everybody else has more experience, or everybody else has more education, and everybody else has more passion, and everybody else has more tools, all this other stuff. Understand something, you're never gonna be or feel worthy. So get that out of the way. So don't try to wait until you feel like you have gotten all the tools and you're confident. You're never going to feel that. So don't wait for that. If you decide to go into a market or niche, you are not going to feel worthy. You're not even going to be worthy. And being worthy is not even the point. But Dan Kennedy talks about the fact that we must typically leapfrog into a niche rather than climb up the ladder in the niche. People are not going to treat you as if you have come to the niche and you paid your dues. Rarely. So don't expect it. Don't look for it. You're not going to be worthy. You're not going to get your turn. So don't wait for people to say, oh, there's that newcomer. We're going to give her a shot. There's a guy who's up and coming. We're going to give him a shot. Don't wait for it. It's probably not going to happen. In some rare cases, someone will say, I saw them. Let's bring her on. Or I heard his webinar, let's bring him on. That typically doesn't happen. Don't wait for it. So don't wait for any of those things to happen before you forge into the market or the niche. You are not going to get recognized until you already are where you're supposed to be. So in other words, don't expect anybody to say, that's a great job, I'm going to bring him on my virtual summit. That's not going to happen. Don't expect it. Don't wait to be recognized before you start taking action and before you dive into your market and you dive into your niche. You are not going to be regarded highly by the people who are buying. When they buy, some people, when they first see you, they might only buy on the basis of price. That's fine. You can't worry about that. You can't worry about that you're not getting the respect of, let's say, Oprah when you join into the market. You can't worry about the fact that people look at Gary Vee and all these other people in such a high esteem. You can't worry about that. You have got to get into the niche before any of that is going to be true about you. You will not be regarded highly. You will probably have to become the thing before there's evidence to other people that it's real. Let me kind of go back over that and tell you what I'm saying. You are going to have to all of a sudden, if you're doing a video show and you're interviewing, you're going to already have to be a big video host to yourself before others recognize you that your show is the real deal. They're not going to do it. Even the people that you want to serve, they're not going to recognize you when you first come there. So you still got to go anyway. And so before you get started, before you can start overcoming the information that you have, because here's what happens to people. What they think is too much information is really they're just intimidated. Right? Because really they're trying to figure out, okay, how can I get all my ducks in a row? How can I get all of my tools ready? How can I get everything lined up so that I'll be ready? And it doesn't happen. And so this then starts to kind of make you feel like, well, man, once I get my membership plug in, then I will go confidently. I will then start creating that product and I'm going to put it up for sale. Trust me, no one's going to think you're the real deal before you get there. Before you become the real deal, nobody's going to think you are. So don't wait for that. When you start any activity, and this is really hard for people. This is really what's going on behind the mask. When you think, oh, I can't get started, I'm paralyzed, there's so many choices. That's not really what's going on. You're not, and typically when people say, oh boy, I really feel lazy and I can't get started, what's wrong with me? It's not anything's wrong with you. What's really going on is that you're trying to start something and you're trying to allow it to become big before you think it's big. When you go into something, and this is the hardest thing for people, you are going to have to think your show is Larry King Live. You're going to have to think that your show is already as big as any television show. You got to have that in your brain, even when you're doing a lowly little podcast and there's only you, your dog, and your mom coming. But you got to believe, and you got to treat it like, and you got to be like, this is the biggest thing that could ever be going. You got to treat it like that. I've got a good friend that, does multi-level marketing. And one of the things that he tells his people all the time about the way they do multi-level marketing is that he uses the phrase, you have to respect your business. What does that mean? You've got to treat it like it's a big deal. You say, well, no, there's nobody coming to my pod. There's nobody reading my blog. There's nobody buying my products. What am I doing with it? No, you got to think in your mind, these people are absolutely crazy if they're not listening to me right now. And you got to approach it that way, and you've got to speak that way, and you've got to become, and it's always got to become a part of you. You've got to walk in, you've got to sit down at your desk, you got to pull up that microphone, and you've got to start talking into it like you're already the talk show host that everybody is already paying attention to, right? So you've got to see it and treat it as big and life-changing. Now, you got to have a passion. Now, I started out by saying that I'm skeptical of saying that you got to have a passion. I'm going to say that you can have a passion in one of three things, and this will work for you. Number one, you got to have a passion for the people. You can do all of this, not be technically sound. You cannot have all your ducks in a row. You can stumble and stamble over your words. You can have a messed up website. You can have all of that stuff if you have a passion for the people. You can enter a market or a niche if you got a passion for the people. Now, you may not have a passion for the people yet because you don't know who you're serving. That's fine. You've got to have a passion for the process. So in other words, you have a passion for what you're doing. You have a passion for when people get into this process, you understand that what's going to happen to their life, you're already excited about it. You got to have you may not have a passion for the people, but you got to have a passion for the process. Now, you may not have a passion for the people or the process, but you then have to have a passion for the parameters. What does that mean? There is a passion for a structure listen, I know that when people understand what I call the HMA process, when people understand that all marketing is USP, building their list, upsells and cross sells, and partnering. When I have a passion for that process, I have a passion for those parameters. I know that if I don't teach anybody, if I don't teach people anything else, everything that I've taught in Strategic Marketing Playbook, I'm passionate about that because I understand the process. So even when I don't like the people, and that hasn't been the case, even though I'm not crazy about the people, even if I'm not crazy about the process, I know that parameters, I know that structure will work for people. So you got to have a passion for one of those three things. The people, you got to have a passion for the process or the parameters. Better if you got all three, but you can go with any one of those and get started. Now, what's the 15 minutes? If you find yourself overwhelmed, right? Once you understand who you're going to be serving, you got to publish, right? That's the thing. You got to publish. You have to change your mindset when you wake up in the morning, when you hit your chair. I am going to publish today. Your mindset ought to be when you start making up your schedule for tomorrow. What am I going to publish? Publishing means finishing something. It means a complete blog post. It means a complete video and it's done. It means a complete live stream. It's not when am I going to plot out and when I'm going to get my editorial calendar. Listen, that's not going to get you past information overwhelm. If anything, you're trying to make up if you have information overload and you're trying to write up an editorial calendar, I promise you that until you get into the habit of publishing, all you're doing is sabotaging yourself, right? You're getting yourself into more overwhelm. You have got to publish. As an information marketer, listen, this is not a rah-rah speech what I'm giving you, right? I could give you a motivational speech if you wanted to, but I'm not all that good at motivational speaking. What I can tell you is, you have got to publish, and you could walk away from everything I just said, and you could benefit from everything I did if you get into the mindset that tomorrow's Friday. What are you going to publish? What are you going to finish? What are you going to publish and push send on and get done with? Excuse me, please. Here's the sickness everybody has. Too much input. Right? Too much input, too much stuff coming in. And so one of the reasons why we have too much stuff coming in, number one, is we don't know who we're serving. We don't know which market we're in. We don't know who we're trying to affect. We're just trying to affect everybody. And so we're taking in everything, thinking if I just grab on to something, this will affect my, no. What we have got to do is we've got to start knowing our people. You got to know that person. And then what happens is you might pick up the Wall Street Journal that day and you might look through it and you say, that story doesn't matter. I don't have to read that. That story doesn't matter. Don't have to read that. Here's one about, I read a story about Marie Kondo the other day. And I said, I read it a second or third time. You know why? Because I knew that was relevant to you because she's an information marketer. I see it. And all that becomes is when you know who you're focused on, you can then start to put out some of the information that's coming in and take in more of the information that's going to assist you in serving the people that you're serving. The sickness that you have is too much input, too many directions. Right? Too many people trying to tell you which way to go. Too many tools. In other words, I got Udemy, or I got Evernote, and I got Trello, and I got Optimized Press, and I got WordPress, and I got you got all these tools, and they're coming at you, new ones every day, too many of them. Right? But if you don't know who you're serving, that's the reason why too many tools are on your brain. Right? That's a sickness. The other sickness, too much inventory. You got too much stuff to use. It's not that you don't have enough. You got Canva, you got, this picture membership. You got all this stuff, right? Until you're really kind of in motion, until you're publishing, it's too much. As soon as you start publishing, it's not going to be enough, right? When you start publishing, here's what you're going to find out. You're then going to know whether or not you need Canva. You're then going to know whether or not you need Adobe Creative Cloud. You're then going to know whether or not you need Camtasia. You're going to know whether or not you need this new subscription. You will then start to figure out, oh, you know what? I need this. Yeah, it might cost a little more than I want, but it's going to help me to publish. Too much inventory, too many people, right? Too many people coming in at you. Some people, good people, want to buy from you, but they're draining you because they're taking you away from the people you know how to focus. I don't want to get off onto this. I could spend a whole nother time on this. Too many people involved with you, too many voices, right? Too many people trying to get you to do too many different things. Every partnership, every customer, every joint venture is not a good one for you. Got too many voices. Until you know who you're serving, you can't say yes to everything. And what happens is you will then start to say yes to, here's what happens. If you don't know who you're trying to serve, you do what you keep loops open. In other words, you say to people, you know what, let's get back to each other in another month. And really what you're saying is, I can't say no to you because I don't know whether or not I can't let you go. When you know who you're going to serve, you might say to somebody, look, I've got this thing going on. I can't work on that right now. I've got to stay focused on this. Let's revisit this whenever, but let's not keep an open loop. In other words, you can't keep everybody on the string because you don't know whether or not things are going to work out. You got to start making things work out. You and I need to balance input with output. That's what it comes down to. We have got to balance the amount of things coming in with output. What do I mean by that? As a content marketer, even when you are in learning mode, you're taking a course. You have to set aside for time for two things: content production and content marketing. You must set aside time for that every day. I don't care what you're doing. If you are not marketing your content and you are not producing content to sell, you are going to be in information overload. And even if you don't quite know what to sell, you've got to be in production mode every single day that you're working. Now, I'm not saying that you got to work every single day, but I'm saying every day that you're working, every day you sit down in that chair, you got to be in production mode to sell something, or to produce something for a client, or to market your business in order to get more clients. Content production and content marketing. If you're not doing those two things on a daily basis, I don't care what you're doing. You're going to be overwhelmed with the amount of things coming at you. Number three, It is the only thing that must remain on your schedule all of the time. It must always be on your schedule. It has to be. If you're not working on something you're going to sell, I promise you, in another month, you'll start to look back. You'll say, "Well, man, what exactly did I do?" Right? I mean, what exactly did I get done? If you don't have a finished product, and this goes beyond whether or not you got, a whiteboard, and whether or not you got, you're putting things on your calendar or your schedule or your day timer or whatever. It really does almost start with deciding these are non-negotiables on my schedule. So in other words, block out on your schedule content production and content marketing. If you go back and you read any of these books about the habits of some of the most prolific authors, they will tell you that to a person, I think Stephen King has a time of day that if you are going to talk to Stephen King, you're not going to talk to him during this time of day because he sits down and he writes. He writes during a certain part of the day. And I don't care what you're doing, you're not getting a hold of this dude during that period of time. You and I have to respect our business that much. So if you're a video creator, every day you got to create videos. Every day you got to be in the process of getting in position to create video. Every day you're working. Now, again, I'm not saying you got to work every day. Some days you ought to be off. But if you're sitting down in that chair and you're not marketing or you're not producing, as an information marketer, you are falling behind, and you are waiting to get sold to. You are waiting for stuff to come at you and put you in information overload. Now, what I'm about to tell you, you can do with blocks of 15 minutes of your day, right? This is the 15-minute part. And these are the things that, in terms of content production and content marketing, I just want to give you some handles and some ways you can think about it. You can state these any way you want to, but I'm saying consider these blocks of 15, and every one of you can get into your schedule, get in there, right? Now, what do I mean by that? Every day you ought to plan to finish many of these activities. Now, I'm not talking about working on them. I'm talking about finishing them. When you're done, get them finished. What do I mean? Number one, start trailblazing. In other words, find your market. We already talked about that. Number two, start talking. What do I mean by talking? Got to talk to your market. Talk to your niche. Write a blog post. Got to put something in written form and talk to them. Some people just have to they got to get it that way. And I'm not saying you got to be a blogger. If you write an email every day, turn that email into a blog post. If you do a live broadcast every single day, transcribe the blog post, transcribe the live, turn it into a blog post. I'm not saying you got to produce all that stuff, but you got to be talking to people. And some people only get it if they got to read it. I wish I had time to go to every live broadcast. One of the things I like to do, the people who are an Ultimate Insider, and they'll tell you, right? Anybody who's an Ultimate Insider will tell you, if you have a live broadcast, I've been to yours, right? I've been there. If I see it, if I know about it, if I see you online and you're doing something and you're doing the live, I get there. I don't have time to stay at all of them. I don't have time to see them all, but I get there. I wish I did, but you know what would help me? If you had that live broadcast in a blog post. I can sit down, read it, and I take it, everything you got. That doesn't mean that what you did in your live broadcast is not valid. What it does mean is that some people only get it when they see writing. Some people only have time for that. Some people, all they have is their mobile device, and they don't have time to watch you. Maybe they got 15 minutes while they're in the car. They only got time to read that post. You've got to put it in writing. So you have to talk to your niche in writing. You got to talk to your niche audibly. If you're, once again, if you're doing video, strip out the video and put it in iTunes. And actually, when you're doing a live broadcast, I want you to think about something. When you're doing video, when you're doing a live broadcast, I want you to think of the person who is sitting in their car listening to you, right? So I'm not saying that you don't do something dynamic for people to see. What I am saying is be aware that I'm going to now take this audio, I'm going to take this video and turn it into an audio too. So that if somebody gets it and they're at the gym on their mobile device on the treadmill, they're listening to you while they're, stepping, right? Blogging, I think you got to talk to people by words. You got to talk to people audibly. And I think you got to talk to people video, right? Live or record it. One or the other. Doesn't even matter. But I think people need to see you, right? They got to see you. They got to understand who you are. And some people are not going to understand who you are until they see you, right? I think we got to be talking to people. And you talk to people as a blogger, and now again, 15 minutes. I'm not talking about all day. I'm talking about 15 minutes. Talk to people. When you start doing this, you know what? You have something to share. And then you don't have to be what I call an internet philosopher. Right now, again, I'm all for internet philosophy. I'm all for, another meme telling me, the day is going to be grand because I'm cool or something like that. That's all wonderful, right? If that's where people are. But you have something real to share now, right? You've written a blog. You have taken your time. You've given people your best for that day. You can now share that video into a podcast. You can now share that video into a blog, or you can take that blog post and turn it into a podcast or a video. Doesn't really matter. You can do it the other way around. You can do a blog one day, a podcast one day, and a video one day. It can all be the same content, right? In other words, once you have it, that's what you start sharing on social media. Now, don't expect people to start thinking that you're Confucius, right? Because they read your blog post. It's not going to happen the first time. But if you can be consistent about sharing your content, good things can happen. So start talking, then start sharing your talk. In your talk, invite people, right? While you're sharing, while you're talking in your blog post, what do? You invite people. What do you invite them to, right? You invite them to a place where you can train them. Train them. You should be training people on a weekly basis. I don't care, whatever your market is, whatever your ultimate goal for these people is, you should be training them, inviting them to a training, and you are going to school them on how to get better at being what it is that you're getting them to that goal, right? Start training. So when you're in your talking, you should be inviting people to your training. And again, now, if you can't do it weekly, I understand that. If you can, do it weekly. But you should be inviting people to a training. Once they get done with your training, at the end of the training, what do? You invite them. Listen, you tell them, I cannot teach you everything you need to know in this 30-minute session that I'm training you. But I do have a video course. I do have an audio course. I do have a written course where you can get all of my knowledge on this subject. Here it is. Here's the link. So in other words, you go to a market that's unique. You start talking on a regular basis, blogging, podcast, and video. You start sharing that. Inside of that blog, podcast, and video, you invite people to your training. On a weekly basis, you train people and you start to teach them, right? You invite them to your product where you can teach them. And then you start teaming up. Right? You start teaming up. In other words, you start looking for partners. In other words, what's going to start happening is partners are going to start looking for you, right? They're going to start trying to find you, and they're going to start saying, you know what? I like to work with you on this thing, right? And not every partnership is something you ought to say yes to. I could do a whole training just on that. You got to be careful about always saying yes to people, because typically, sometimes you will say yes. And let me tell you this, I could really share with you something about this. You've got to be willing. You got to say yes on your own terms. You got to say yes on your own terms. So in other words, you don't share from a position of, don't partner up from a position of weakness, right? Partner up because you bring something to the table, partner up because they bring something to the table, and because the two of you all can bring something together and make something that's powerful. Right? Okay. Once again, now, my flagship membership is Ultimate Insiders, and this is where we do everything, right? And rather than just, kill the mood and talk to you about what's in it, just go to that URL and you'll see what it's about. If you're a video PLR user, I can promise you it's going to be good for you. Also, my philosophy on how you should be using PLR is in this course, e-learning playbook. It is kind of the sum total of what I believe right now, especially if you use video. If you buy video PLR, I honestly believe this is what you ought to be doing. And quite frankly, I actually put PLR rights to this course. Why? Because I think you ought to be teaching this too. Now you say, well, I'm teaching your philosophy then. Well, yeah, I think y'all teach my philosophy. So plrshow.com/ELP. And then also remember, whatever you're listening to this, our newest PLR, whatever the most recent one is plrshow.com/new, right? And as of right now, it's Zoom PLR, but there might be something else by the time you see this. Okay, all right, that's really about it. For those of you who are watching by YouTube or by Facebook, I appreciate you all being out here for tonight. Once again, I'm sorry, I really had planned to cover something else, and I didn't have time to prepare it. I will probably do it later on this weekend, and I will then really get into the meat of some changes and what we're going to be doing next in terms of your PLR. So really looking forward to getting together with you all tonight, and appreciate y'all being here. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.